Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are tuned in. Welcome to another episode of Watercolor Instructions. Do like the video if you like, it would help me and by subscribing, and then also hit the notification button so that you don't miss a video. Today I'm going to do doors, Mediterranean doors, maybe with a line and wash. So this is a very popular thing, especially with urban sketches. People do a lot of urban sketching and other things. So in terms of materials, I'm using a quarter sheet Saunders 300 grams paper. I've got a couple of synthetic brush and a small mop. And I'm going to try to do maybe 2 doors, and then maybe I'll swap a paper. I'll see how long it's going to get. On the image, what I'm using as a reference, I've got 4 images. And I've got 2, on my right side, I have 2 bottles of water and 20 palette John Pike Big Well. I like this because when I'm doing big paints and other things, I've got big fat brushes, those kind of things. Very easy to dip in. They're very handy. So I got my yellows, my reds, browns and reds, greens, blues and gray. If you're interested in what colors I use, let me know. I can post or I can comment on what colors we're going to use. So for this one exercise, I generally use pencil for watercolor pencil painting, but in this case, I'm going to use Unipen. This is waterproof, 0.5 of a pigment, and this is just to do a simple sketch, but adding a little bit of colors makes it really interesting. So without any ado, let's start. Okay, so I'm going to roughly, just to get the composition right, I'm going to just add a little bit of composition just so that I don't, I'll have to mess up. So that would be the composition. So that's fine. And then the second door. The second door, the image looks, the door is tiny, but I'm going to just make it slightly big just to give a little more room to it. And then again, the images are just for reference, but I'm going to try to do as much as I can. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is the plants. There's plenty of plants, which gives you the random flower effect. So I'm going to do flowers in my own style. You could do detailed flowers, but that would take for a long time. So I'm just going to do simple flowers and the bush, and it continues, and there's a potted plant with more small flowers. So there's more tiny flowers, and it's got some element of a design. And coming back, there's the steps, first step. And I'm just going to add a little more steps just to give it a little perspective. Second step, and the door. So you can add as much details as you want, but I'm gonna try to make it a little more simpler, as this is just an exercise just to show how one would do. And there's a little more flowers falling here. And a pillar. And there's that same style pot. With more flowers on the side. Oh, sorry, the plant is slightly oval shaped. For some reason I didn't realize they are oval shaped. Okay, and there's also a pillar continuous for the dome. That's the frame. Also, this would be very easy if you could move the page or turn the page at an angle. I feel drawing straight lines is a lot more easier if you can hold the paper at an angle. And almost done. There's one more line, and there's a big doorknob. And there's, not to forget, there's a couple of lights. Those small details add a little more charm, so I'm just aligning myself. Yeah, there's a creeper. I'll just add a couple more leaves just to give a feel for it. That would be the first one. The second one is the same, but it's got a lot more flowers going on. And this one, let's do the door first. Why don't I just peel the paper so that it's a bit more easy for me to draw. So at an angle it's easy to draw than to keep it straight. That is just me. It'd be interesting to know what people think about it. And it's in a cove. Yeah, much better, to be honest. Drawing straight lines. While it's in the cove at an angle, you can turn it and a lot more easier. Okay, so there's a stone. Then let's add a pot. A little bit of flowers. Okay, and on the side you start with a little bit of ferns. A pot. Then there is a second tier plant, and then there is the bougainvillea. So a big branch, another branch widening up slowly, and so there's some shoots which are popping up. And let's not forget, there are a couple of windows which adds to the character. And we are coming back. There's lots of flowers. And the door has a different type of paneling. So it's got long stripes. And I don't know. Okay, so this, and then I can see another pot. And oh, that one is not a stone, that's just a palm. Just to give us a little bit of perspective. All right, so that completes the drawing. I will just double check to make sure it's in the group. Okay, and let's crack on with the drawing. So I'm going to use a smaller mop brush. I could use a slightly bigger one, but that one would do. Just let's get a little bit of gray for keep in mind they tend to become a little dull. So, and that's has a little bit tint of yellow, but we're just trying to so a little bit of gray, maybe I'll add a little more yellow ochre and a little more darker when it comes to okay, and so, and I'm gonna come in okay, so the flowers, they're pink. I'm using a little bit of rose. So a little bit of rose color, and I'm going to come back, hit green, get a feel for it. So the same thing goes, a little feel for it, and we got some white flowers Let's do a little bit of purple flowers, just because we can do some purple flowers. So I'm gonna do some purple flowers. Same thing. I'm just scattering a little bit. And we're going to change the tone of the green a little bit, just to give a suggestion that there's more to the plant than just purple green. And a little more color to the glass part. And let's add a little more shadow. Shadow, shadow, shadow. Shadow, shadow. So a little more dark. Gray and some crimson red. So I'm dabbing in a little more colors just here and there as a suggestion, and that should do it. Add a little more yellow to the light, and we come back to it. So I'm going to use burnt sienna. Give the first coat. And I'm just using a little bit of burnt umber. I'm going to come back and then add a little more shadow to one direction. That's about a simple line sketch. I would let it dry for a second. I will come back and then add a little more highlights, add fresh flowers and some greens. But while that one is drying, I'm going to come back and do the same on this side. So on this side, let's do the flowers red. There's plenty of red flowers. Greens. So there's a small so a little bit greens. Okay, just changing the tone of the green a little bit. I'm going to come back and just add a little more green, dark. I'll come back and then I'll add, and I'm taking a little more yellow to make a bit of points. Just using the tip of the brush just to get that feel for it. I'm using the next tier. These are different shades of green. And I'll come back and then finish off a little more second layer of greens. While with the same brush, I'm going to come back and add a little more green to this painting as well. So okay, and in this case, I'm going to come back with a little bit of red flowers. Beautiful. All right. So this one is shaping up just fine. Let's look at the whole thing is slightly grayish. So I'm going to come in, add a little more gray. And another nice technique you could use is this is a small piece of bamboo, but you could add a little more texture by coming in. That gives you a really good texture. So okay, and that one was a bit too dark for my taste. I'm going to just lighten it. And as I said, I'm going to go with a different color. I'm going to just add a little more color. And this one is Algerian Crimson. So once it dries, and this one is, and okay, I just think about a little bit of shadow, 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 and I'm going to use a little bit of shadow. Just like that. Okay, it's shaping fine. Now the same thing with the door. I'm going to use a little bit of burnt sienna, first coat, and a little bit of burnt umber. So a little bit of dark on the edge. And while that one is drying, I'm going to come back with burnt umber. This is just reservoir pen with, it's got a long flute. I'm just coming in, adding a few more detailed lines. I'd say I would just leave that at that stage. I'm going to just add a little more to the wall. Just a little bit of texture. And this one is missing. And when you look at it, there's a little more shadow on the top. So shadow, shadow, and there's a little more shadow on the side. I would leave that, but I would come back and then just brighten up some of the flowers. I'm thinking that one is a rose. Just a little more fresh pigment. Okay, the same thing, I'm going to come back. Just a fresh tint of rose. And maybe a little more. I'm happy with that. Let's give a couple of yellow flowers. And that's it. All right. The last but not least, let's finish up the window. The window looks like it's a shade of green, or maybe it's a shade of blue. I'm not sure, but let's add a little more depth to it. And there you have it. So we need a little more darker lines. I'm doing a burnt umber. I'm going to come back line, and again add a little more texture to the dough. Yeah, that's I would call it a wrap. That's 2 doors. There's 2 more doors, and I might do another 2 more, or I might not, at least. But this I hope you enjoy it, and then help me out, hit the subscribe button and the notification button so that you don't miss a next video. Till next time, thank you and bye.